What the heck? You mean somebody who said no to me is a higher priority than somebody who could be the perfect customer who I've never spoken with? That doesn't make any sense. Why would we go after somebody who already said no? Remember that someone who says no is saying no to a message in a moment. How many times, maybe if you've got kids or you've got a coworker or somebody who asked you for something and you said no in that moment, but it's not because the ask was unreasonable. It's not because you hate the idea of doing that thing for them or giving them that thing that they were asking for. But then later, in a right moment, you're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So every record you ever touch, every person you ever want to reach out to, they fall into a bucket. Okay, one of 4 buckets, really. As you manage these, you're going to prioritize the ones that are most likely to convert. And you're trying to sell, you're trying to fit into your day. This is going to maximize that time. You're going to spend the time on the right things. It's hard to figure out, well, should I get a new list? Do I need to follow up with these people? Should I be emailing, calling? What should I be doing? How should I be doing it? There's a lot of questions you have to answer for yourself. Buckets helps you organize that, helps you learn faster, helps you move forward. But you've not committed to a meeting and you're not disqualified. You didn't say, hey, this is totally irrelevant, unsubscribe, right? So you're not kicking yourself out of my bucket, but you're not booking a meeting. Okay, this is actually where that SDR that I talked about, who booked way more meetings than the rest of them, he kept his job, in fact, went on to be a successful AE. This is how he did it. He built up so many people who said, not right now, or call me back, or maybe at another moment, or who just said no, but not a hard no, that he only had to follow up with those people, and he filled his entire pipeline every quarter from there on.
There's a quote that I really like. We all love short sales cycles, right? We love short sales. Hey, I met you and we closed a deal, and of course I want to see how we can expedite our sales cycles. But if you have no deals that ever have a sales cycle greater than 30 days, you basically don't have a business. Like there's something fundamentally wrong if all of your sales cycles is always less than 30 days. Everybody here, obviously you saw the email. This is Rex, and today he's going to be sharing with us how lead buckets can help you generate 4 to 10 times more meetings. Everybody inside this group, obviously outbound is a big topic for us. Generating more leads is a big topic for us, right? Since that's the big thing that you have to focus on, and then we kind of help with all the back end of closing and servicing. Rex's background is outbound oriented. If you haven't checked out the book, definitely go check out the book. It's a short read. It's nothing, too crazy, but super valuable stuff. But with that said, Rex, thank you for being here. I'll let you take it away. If you have something you want to put on screen, you can. If it's just a verbal conversation, either way works.
I've got a deck. It helps me stay on course. Let me share my screen here. Cool. And I've taught the principles of lead bucketing a million times. I love this stuff. I wrote about it quite a bit. But what's crazy is when you read the book that we wrote, so Ryan, my co-author, and I wrote a very simple book. It was like, look, we're not geniuses at this stuff. It's not rocket science. It's literally just the bare fundamentals that we were always having to teach our reps anytime we hired somebody, because we'd both run sales teams before. And, especially folks who are not professional salespeople by trade, right? So the fundamentals were really, really useful. And then we ended up building businesses around teaching people the fundamentals, implementing the fundamentals. I own a RevOps consulting firm now. So we build out HubSpot and Salesforce and all the fanciest stuff for a little bit later stage companies, software companies, things like that. So, but ultimately it comes back to the fundamentals. Anybody trying to do fancy stuff without the fundamentals in place is losing money. So today we're going to talk about some of the fundamentals in a process we call lead bucketing. So we'll cover why you should care about this, what's changed in the last few years in sales, because those of you who have been doing this for a while definitely know this. I know, Mike, you and your team probably know this more than most. Like, everything's different. I've got some experience that tells me everything's different. It's only getting more different faster. Why should you care about lead bucketing? What is valuable about this process? What are the buckets and how do we work them? Okay. So I co-authored a best-selling book on outbound sales. It's real simple. We're going to talk about a good chunk of it today. But if you haven't gotten into, outbounding for very long, this is a good primer for you. We do this all the time. I've worked with companies like Data.World. They were recently acquired by ServiceNow for multi-tens of millions of dollars. We've seen that even companies as big as that have fundamental needs to build the basics into teams like their BDR team. So they had an outbound BDR team. Let's get into what's changed over the last few years. So those of you who've been around for a while selling, I own 2 SDR agencies over the last 10 years. And it was kind of easy at first. I remember I was an SDR myself, and then I went and started my own agency because it wasn't that stinking hard to book meetings. You just had to put in the work. So we'd call people, we'd email people, we'd message them on LinkedIn. More automation started creeping in, and that made it even easier because we were on kind of the bleeding edge of technology adoption. So we just kept booking more and more meetings. It was super easy. You could send 4 emails, book 8 demos, right? Those were the good old days. It was cool because we didn't have to try that hard and we didn't have to be that smart. So we used the spray and pray techniques that everybody's so familiar with now. It wasn't super strong in the fundamentals. It took me years to learn the fundamentals and why it was so essential. And, a lot of us built businesses on getting lucky. A lot of sales teams were successful because they just hit the market at the right time and got lucky. Maybe they adopted one of the automation tools early. I imagine we've got some folks here who have interacted with some of these tools like SalesLoft, Outreach. You might have seen some of these in the LinkedIn sphere, and they kind of change things. To say nothing of what's happened with AI, but the new reality is those are the weapons of the trade, if you will, but in the wrong hands, they became mass spam cannons. So it's just really easy to send out a lot of bad messaging to the wrong targets or good messaging to the wrong targets, which is just as bad because you probably spent more time producing it. So it's really, really simple to do this. AI is making it worse, not better in many ways. It is making it better for some who choose to go the long route of actually learning how to use the tools correctly, and we love it. But buyers now have 2 filters, and these filters are getting stronger. Those of you who have sent a lot of cold email, you'll definitely recognize spam filters. You know that you're not reaching the inboxes as often as you used to. Phones are getting spam filters. A lot of hullabaloo was just announced about changes to Apple and how they allow a bot to require a caller to tell you why they're calling first before they pass the call through to you, similar to like the old Google Voice days. Still exists, by the way. Google Voice hasn't gone away. But the concept of like they don't just show up as spam potentially. Like you don't even get the call. It doesn't even arrive at you until they've passed a bar that's done through automation. So email, phone, harder to get through. LinkedIn's cracking down on a bunch of scrapers and things like that. So it's just getting hard. And then there's personalization and there's good personalization. So there's a lot of tools that will help you personalize. Most of them are pretty bad because they're generic. They're very clever. They're focused on being smart or cute or clever and winning a meeting based on cleverness. And that used to work all the time. I don't know how many of you have ever seen in the cold email, kind of the game of cold email. Some of you might still use this. At the end of 7 email sequence, you might have an email that's like, hey, I haven't heard from you, so I'm going to assume 1 of 3 things is true. You don't care, you like it, but you're too busy, or like you got crushed by a rhinoceros or something, right? That worked like 7 years ago like a charm. You got responses at the tail end of your sequence like you were a genius of sales. It doesn't work so well anymore. Some of you might be having success with it. It doesn't work so well anymore. Things have changed. And this has caused us to need to be better. We need to learn the fundamentals. So one of the things that we're going to focus on today, really the core of this message, is squeezing the juice from every single conversation, not just the folks that we're skimming the cream off the top of the market, not just the new folks, not just the new list, but who have we spoken with? Where is their opportunity lying down on the ground that we just pick it up and grab it? So when we say 4 to 10 times more meetings, give you a little context for this. I went into an SDR team. So these are cold callers, these are cold emailers, and they were struggling with producing meetings, and they were buying more data and sending more emails and calling, doing more work. They were just killing themselves with working so hard. And it wasn't working that well. And then we implemented buckets, and the one of the 4 reps who really got it, he beat the others by a huge margin, and he worked fewer hours. And eventually he built up so much pipeline of future conversations, follow-ups that he was generating, that he no longer had to do cold outbound for weeks at a time. And then he became an account executive. He was the top performing account executive. So the principle of buckets really helped him to produce way more pipeline than everyone else. We ended up having to replace those other 3 reps because they just weren't successful enough at following the plan. They couldn't get on board with bucketing. It really didn't help them. All the effort in the world did not change their pipeline. It was too hard for them to reach conversations and take advantage of them. So we're going to teach you some of that today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we don't want to replace the fundamentals. We don't want to buy fancy tools. We want to augment, automate, AIify some of the right things. The fundamentals are core to that. If you don't know what good looks like, automating or adding AI to it doesn't make it any better. Okay. I'm going to assume that people want to jump in. They'll ask questions. They'll raise their hand. I'm not super great at paying attention to chat, but if you chat in, feel free to ask questions. This is just laying the groundwork, so I don't expect a ton of feedback yet. Let's talk about what lead buckets really are. This is a principle. It's an operating system. So every record you ever touch, every person you ever want to reach out to, they fall into a bucket. Okay, one of 4 buckets, really. As you manage these, you're going to prioritize the ones that are most likely to convert, which means the little time you have to sell, the little time that you can fit into your day to do these things, or maybe a lot of time, depends on how much you've got available. But often you're busy, you're doing a lot of things, you got life going on, and you're trying to sell, you're trying to fit into your day. This is going to maximize that time. You're going to spend the time on the right things. Otherwise, it's hard to figure out, well, should I get a new list? Do I need to follow up with these people? Should I be emailing, calling? What should I be doing? How should I be doing it? There's a lot of questions you have to answer for yourself. Buckets helps you organize that, helps you learn faster, helps you move forward. Okay, a little bit of history. I wrote about this in Outbound Sales, No Fluff with my co-author, Ryan. We are emphasizing the value of the work, doing the right work over the volume of the work, doing a lot of work. I don't know. Imagine none of you really wants to do more work. None of us is desirous to do more work. We're not looking for how could I fill more things into my day, but how can we do the right work so that we can make the most of the time that we are dedicating to that work. This is different than the quality over quantity debate. We believe in doing quality and quantity. If you do good work, do a lot of it. That's great. This isn't to say don't do a lot of work, but make sure that you don't over-index on doing a lot of work rather than doing a lot of the right work. And then finally, that we put an order of operations to our day to make us most successful. Cool. Let's talk about the first lead bucket. This is our cold bucket. These are people we have never, ever spoken with. We have not attempted to reach them. We don't know if they are going to pick up the phone. We don't know if they're going to respond to email. In fact, we're not even totally sure. We might have gone through some data validation, some data quality checks, but we're not even totally sure that this is their phone number, their email, their LinkedIn profile. We don't know that they're even active. We just don't know anything. We bought a list, we downloaded this. Maybe throw in chat if you have a second, anybody who's on right now, throw in chat where you're getting your data from today. I'd be really curious to see if anybody's got, are you getting databases or data vendors emailing you? Are you scraping the web? Are you using AI? What are you guys using today? Throw me some feedback in there. Mike, you guys recommend anything to the group when they start asking where do you generate leads from?
Yeah, if we're looking for like local businesses, a lot of D7 Lead Finder. If we're looking more bigger businesses, seamless.ai.
Okay. D7 Lead Finder comes up, Facebook group scrapes, Apollo, Zoom Info, kind of the classics, LinkedIn, Book Your Data. These are all great. Tons of sources. You're building that list, and these are folks that you've never even attempted to reach. So this is your bucket one. These are your cold. In terms of the value of these buckets, this is the least valuable bucket. We talk a lot about, in sales, we think a lot about the next list. Okay, I build a new campaign. I got to do a new thing. I got to get new data. I got to scrape more Facebook groups. I got to go back to Apollo, download a new list. That is the least valuable activity in the full range of sales activities. Building a list is the least valuable activity. Now, you build the right list, it really sets you up for success in the other buckets. But bucket one is the least valuable bucket. So we're not going to spend a ton of time there. You get the concept. Bucket two, we call working. You can call it tempting. You can give it any sort of name. But these are folks that we have not yet spoken with, but we've started our outreach. We sent our first email. We placed our first call. We sent our first LinkedIn message. And we know that there's a valid path. The email didn't bounce. The phone call didn't get rejected. The LinkedIn message, they didn't decline our invite, for example. So we know that there's a valid channel to reach these folks. That's bucket two. Okay. Now, bucket two is inherently more valuable than bucket one because if you have not attempted any of the folks in bucket one, you don't know how many have a good email, good phone number, good LinkedIn, et cetera. Okay. So bucket two, inherently more valuable. This is where we start to say you book more meetings by focusing on the next buckets, the later buckets, than you do on the first buckets. This is where we can claim 4 to 10 times more meetings because you're going to be focusing on those later buckets. Okay, who can answer this question? I'm curious from the audience, from those who are here in chat, maybe Mike, maybe Marty. Why is bucket two better than bucket one? I just laid it out in my own opinion. Why would if I had half an hour today to go prospecting, Why would continuing to pursue folks I've already attempted be better than building a new list and attempting new folks? What do you guys understand about that?
Jennifer said,
Okay, Jennifer, have rapport. Good guess. You haven't yet had a conversation. So remember, bucket 2, haven't even had a conversation. So you haven't yet had rapport. Katina, same concept. Haven't yet built a relationship. It's people that maybe seemed interested in your offer. Those are not even bucket 2. Those are going to be later buckets. We'll talk about that in a minute. So bucket 1, you've never even attempted to reach in. Bucket 2, you know that they've got a valid path. You're spending less time figuring out if you're going to, let's say you personalized an email, or let's say you built up a real complex system. You no longer have to spend time guessing or hoping or wishing that it doesn't bounce, right? If any of you have ever sent personalized emails before AI, before all this other automation, for those of us who had to handcraft our emails, you know the pain of sending an email that you so thoughtfully put together. Maybe you researched by hand, you went to their LinkedIn profile, you went to their website, you found something that was relevant, you reached out to them for a specific reason. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be using more automation, you're targeting smaller businesses, but for those who are working larger deals, maybe, the pain of having an email bounce after you spent all that time putting together that beautiful message, that brilliant thought, that sucks. It hurts. So bucket 2, inherently better than bucket 1, because you know that the email is not going to bounce. You know that the phone number is not going to ring a dead line. That's why we care more about bucket 2 than bucket 1. Okay. So a valid path warrants multiple attempts. Bucket 3. This is where the gold happens. This is where the money is made, is in the priority bucket. You can give it any name you want. We call it priority because it means it is a higher priority than those we're working and those that are cold. This is where, Jennifer, you were talking about have rapport. 100%, this is bucket 3. We have had a conversation. And Jennifer, you might have said no to me initially. I said, hey, no, I'm not interested right now. Or, hey, I'm busy. Or you've emailed me back and said, this sounds interesting, but we're going through a lot of changes in our business. You'll have to reach back out next quarter. We've spoken, but you've not committed to a meeting and you're not disqualified. You didn't say, hey, this is totally irrelevant, unsubscribe, right? So you're not kicking yourself out of my bucket, but you're not booking a meeting, okay? This is actually where that SDR that I talked about, who booked way more meetings than the rest of them, he kept his job, in fact, went on to be a successful AE. This is how he did it. He built up so many people who said, not right now, or call me back, or maybe at another moment, or who just said no, but not a hard no. This is over email, over phone, over LinkedIn, that he only had to follow up with those people, and he filled his entire pipeline every quarter from there on. He had to keep dripping some in the top of the funnel, but not nearly as much as the rest of his team, who are constantly looking for the next new list over here in bucket 1. Okay, I'm going to pause there. You guys get that? Mike, you made it absolutely true. Absolutely true. Money is in the follow-up. This is where the money is made. Any questions on that? Any confusion around what fits bucket 3? Had that conversation, didn't book a meeting. Okay. This is a question I get all the time from salespeople. What the heck? You mean somebody who said no to me is a higher priority than somebody who could be the perfect customer who I've never spoken with? That doesn't make any sense. Why would we go after somebody who already said no? Remember that someone who says no is saying no to a message in a moment. How many times, maybe if you've got kids or you've got a coworker or somebody who asked you for something and you said no in that moment, but it's not because the ask was unreasonable. It's not because you hate the idea of doing that thing for them or giving them that thing that they were asking for. But then later, in a right moment, you're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I can tell you with my kids, I got 3 of them, happens all the freaking time. I'm always saying no, and then I'm always later saying yes, yeah, that's fine. I kind of default to no. And in fact, buyers default to no. Our defense position just tells us, like, say no to a salesperson until you're totally sure you want to say yes to anything at all. So that's going to be the standard response, is a no. But what does that mean? What do we know about people who say no? They said something. And guess what? Most people say nothing. Okay. If any of you have over a 5% response rate on emails, 10% pickup rate on phones, like, I would love to work in your industry. I'd love to work your list, because that sounds amazing. It's really hard to get right now because most people just ignore you. They say nothing at all. So saying no to a message in a moment is totally fine. I know how to reach that person. I cold call Mike, he picks up. I cold email Marty, he answers. I know how to get a hold of Mike. I know how to get a hold of Marty. This is easy peasy. I can come back to them. No problem. And how many of you have your message so nailed in, so dialed in, that you couldn't possibly improve it or experiment upon it and make it better? None of us. None of us has that. People who have run in businesses for 50 years don't have their message nailed in because the market's changing, competition's changing, market conditions are changing. So everything is changing. So you can always be changing your message and trying new messaging. Okay. All right. Know to your offer at this particular moment, not know forever. This is even more true of what we're going to talk about soon. The low-hanging fruit are DQs and close loss ops. DQs meaning folks who didn't show up to a meeting, or folks who you had a deal with that you marked close lost. They are so much more likely to convert. We've actually done some analyses for clients of ours where consistently we find this. Many of their opportunities that actually close are from previously lost business. I don't know, throw it in chat or give me a +1 or a thumbs up or something if you've seen this before, but we see this in every industry, every company we've ever worked with. At least 10% of the customers, maybe 5% of their customers in some cases. In the enterprise, big whale deals, $1 million deals plus, it's like 50% of their deals are deals they lost that came back and they won. So it's super common practice. So we say no is a priority. No is absolutely a priority. Cool. You get this. Bucket 4 is meeting set. This is like a super obvious one. There's nothing complex about this, right? We know we booked the meeting. Now, I will say no show. If they don't show up to your meeting, push them back to priority. Don't keep them bucket 4. Push them back to that priority bucket, because that's going to be where you work them till you get them. Okay, you keep them in that priority bucket and you spend the most time working that priority bucket because you're not going to have that many meetings set constantly, right? Now, Mike, the folks are involving you in that meeting, correct? And then you guys are taking it from there?
Correct.
Okay. We're going to share a principle that is true about buckets that carries us beyond the initial meeting set. And I'm sure, Mike, your team's really great at following up on these. So it may not be relevant to everybody here, but it's a true principle that we'll share. We'll cover that in just a second.
And I can clarify for you, we're involved in actually showing up to the meetings. Anything that happens outside of those meetings, if they miss a meeting, the partner goes into follow-up.
Nice. Okay, great. Then this is relevant for everybody here. Perfect. Okay. So here's the key. This funny little graphic. You work your buckets backwards. So if I had 30 minutes in my day to go prospecting, what bucket am I going to work? I'm not working bucket 1. I only got 30 minutes. If I had to really make sure I'm maximizing my time, I'm going to go confirm that meeting that's due tomorrow. Hey, they didn't confirm. They didn't say they were definitely going to show up. They didn't accept the calendar invite. They didn't reply to my reminder email. I better make sure they show up because I put a lot of effort in getting them from bucket 1 to bucket 2 to bucket 3 to bucket 4. Put in so much effort. I don't want to lose that value. That is way more valuable than spending 30 minutes emailing strangers, right? Setting up a new campaign, writing a new email sequence, cadence, whatever. So much more valuable. Okay. Questions on that? Cool. Then work the buckets backwards. Then if I run out of meetings to confirm, I'm going to go and I'm going to work my priority list. Now, I'm someone who manages by CRM. Throw it in chat as well. If you use a CRM, tell me the name of it, or if you use a spreadsheet, whatever it is, you should have some sort of, okay, you got Go High Level, Zoho. Go High Level is super popular right now. It's kind of AI native platform. It's great. Hearing really good things about it. Zoho is a classic. It's a great starting point. You'll want to be able to identify those priority leads in that bucket. We use a lead status in any sort of CRM. You might have prospect stages, whatever you call them, but we like to use tasks because sometimes we forget to follow up. Sometimes we forget and they fall into this, like they slip into the cracks, right? So what we teach everybody is use follow-up tasks, be religious about working your tasks. Make sure that if they're a follow-up task, there's some sort of higher priority indicator on them. Because if you're like setting up call, email tasks, whatever, you want these to stand out. You want to be able to quickly identify which of my highest value tasks are due today. Okay, cool. This carries on into the pipeline. It answers the question of who warrants the most attention. So if you're working with Mike and team, you've got deals on the line, you're trying to make sure they show up to meetings, next meetings, get them all the way to close. You want to prioritize those deals that are closest to closing. So let's say deals in stage 1. Yeah, it's important that you give them what you owe them, follow up, help move along the stages. It's better than cold calling strangers, obviously. It's better than cold emailing a new list. It's better than drafting that new message. It's far more valuable. You've already done all the work to get here. Why would you not prioritize this first? But I won't ask you for a raise of hands, but how many of you have ever experienced this where you've thought, okay, I need to start prospecting again. I need to go fill my pipeline. And so I'm not going to prioritize the things that I know are actually most valuable. I might owe somebody follow-up, but I choose to go draft a new message, write a new sequence. We've all done it. It happens, right? This is the order of operations. And you move on to stage 2, right? And as they progress, let's say you had 10 stages, doesn't matter. The 10th stage, that's your most valuable bucket, right? And then you work those buckets backwards, okay? This is how we work all of our time, all of our effort, all of our planning. And let's talk a little bit about planning. If you're not using your calendar to proactively schedule, a lot of you are independent business owners. You're like generating leads to sell to, marketing agency leads essentially. And if you're not proactively planning, you are leaving it up to the whims of your curiosity, interest, whatever that day. Using your calendar, proactively planning, marking time that you're going to be dedicating, and then saying what bucket you're going to be working. That's the number one tip I give you. You may already be planning your day, but like write what bucket you're working. So when you look back at the week, you say, I had a really good week. And we crushed it. We passed so many leads there. We got so many deals going. Why did I have a good week? Oh yeah, I was working bucket 3 and bucket 4. Look at that. Look at my calendar. I had a really crummy week. Oh yeah, I didn't work the buckets that hard. I wasn't really working that hard on the buckets. I didn't fill my pipeline very much. I wasn't spending too much time prospecting. You see, there's no buckets on your calendar. You're going to notice. Okay. That's what we recommend. So use your time wisely there. Questions. I'm going to pause here. I don't have anything more on the screen share, so I'm going to stop sharing. What questions come up? What experiences have you had that maybe call this into question? You can challenge me on any of this because I've taught this to tons of sales reps, and a lot of them had great points that were different from how we see things, but I'm happy to answer.
Anybody working buckets? Anybody thought about it this way?
It seems obvious.
It
seems super obvious at first, but I have never met a person who methodically worked the process like this consistently. It's just usually not the case.
Prioritization. It's just making sure that you're doing it. Follow-up is where the money is, and yet I have so many people get super nervous about following up. Like they'll call it after 2 or 3, and it's like, no, keep going, way more. Like this inspired me. I want to go ask my team to literally pull for all of our partners. How many follow-ups did we do to get our partner to sign up and be like, hey, we did 23 follow-ups and 6 meetings with you, and now you're a partner. How many do you think it is going to be to get your customer? So I got inspired inside of this to go collect some of that data to hopefully inspire our partners of like, hey, this is sometimes what it takes.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and say it's a year later. So I think I started at the top of the year. I want to say it might have been like May or June, like literally 12 months. Last year, I think my first meeting with Marty, and then, the occasional emails come in. And it was never like an objection on value. It was just either timing or resources. Yep. So exactly what Rex said, it's just a no in that moment. It's not a no to the offer. It's not even a no to, understanding the value. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, you don't get the value. So they want to like beat you over the head with that. And you guys didn't do it, which was great. But staying top of mind with the emails, I think it was a follow-up with Jessica, just an invitation to revisit. So that certain things are different, and that was the hook. Like, so we added a few new things here you might want to check out. And of course, it was new enough. It was a slight adjustment to the opportunity that gave me the in. But yeah, 12 months. I don't know about the others.
There's a quote that I really like. We all love short sales cycles, right? We love short sales. Hey, I met you and we closed a deal, and of course I want to see how we can expedite our sales cycles. But if you have no deals that ever have a sales cycle greater than 30 days, you basically don't have a business. Like there's something fundamentally wrong if all of your sales cycles is always less than 30 days. They're like, Marty's the king at like, dude, I saw one that had like 900 days on it the other day, and I'm like, that's like 3 years.
Yeah, Mike, what we call it when you're working just that net new, always the fresh stuff, we call it skimming the cream off the market. Where's all the good stuff, man? It's everywhere else. It's like the rest of it is left in the bowl. Stop skimming the cream off the market. We want the cream, by the way. Don't ignore the people who want to close fast. That's great. I wish it was all cream, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah. And the good stuff, though, like, we could call it the whipped cream, right? Let's get to the actual shake.
Yeah. That's right. Good.
I'll say that what I got mostly out of this is the efficiency part of it, like working the bucket backwards. So I find, well, so I'm still coasting off of luck and word of mouth right now. I'm small and I'm growing, and so the reputation precedes me. However, we're not going to be there forever. And I find that sometimes when you're in the weeds, you're reactive. And so sometimes if it's, bucket 3 that pops up, you're doing that. It's like whatever, it's like whack-a-mole. So there is no real structure. You just feel productive because you're responding instead of being intentional in working the process, like you say, backwards, like from the follow-up to, I guess going from warm to cold rather than just whatever's popping up.
I have this question for you, Rex, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in Katina, unless you have 100% conversion rate, even on the ones you're getting lucky where people are, your reputation precedes you, there's follow-up, right? That could be next year.
100%, 100%.
People who are like, oh man, I'd love to help you out, or this sounds great. I'm super excited about your new business. This sounds awesome. I'd really love to, but like, we just spent the money we would have put on this other thing. We just invested in this other side of the business. There's like so many reasons that those will be beautiful follow-ups.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I also have a 1-year story. One of my clients now, she was with a different marketing company when I met her, and she's like, oh, I wish I met you first. And I was like, don't worry about it. And then she just circled back. So it's about like between 4 months and 8 months, I just find people will circle back. So you're right. Yeah. Even in those cases, there's still follow up and, staying top of mind and staying connected.
Yeah. One of my favorite, I used to listen to, he was doing a podcast for a long time. His name's Stelly FD. He's the founder of a company called Close.io or Close.com now. And it's a CRM for salespeople. And his opinion on follow-up was that once someone has given you permission to follow up with them, once you've had a real conversation and there was something there with some tooth to it, you can follow up until they say no. Like buzz off, unsubscribe, like leave me alone. Not aggressively, not obnoxiously, but you should just never give them up. It's your lifelong pipeline. There's no reason that somebody 3 years ago doesn't become a customer today. Absolutely no good reason for it. So keeping them in the pipeline forever is totally justified. And I like the idea of drip emails. I like the idea of marketing emails, all that stuff. You can stay top of mind, staying connected on LinkedIn, et cetera. So that's one little tip. After you've had a real conversation, email, phone, LinkedIn, whatever. If you're not connected yet on LinkedIn, go send them a connection request and just say, hey, it was great connecting with you. That's it. You don't have to push for anything, ask them for a call to action or anything. Just make sure you're connected. Mike, you had a question.
Yeah. Question I had is there a bucket where you ask for, where you turn one lead into multiple leads, where you actually get them to introduce you to other folks? What bucket is that, if any?
Within the same organization, or asking for a referral?
Yeah, you're. So I know some folks that are like super successful. They just closed the deal, or they just had a really good call, and they're like, "Hey, would love to do this for other people that you know," and they get those names and numbers and they get those introductions. What is your normal recommended process for something like that?
Yeah, it's great right after you close a sale. Right. So let's say that the bucket is your closed one stage, right? The folks who just closed. As soon as that's true, hey, it sounds like you had the right experience to get you across the finish line here for us to partner together. Who else comes to mind when you think of businesses that would benefit from the same thing? It's a great time to ask them. And then anytime you've been successful in delivering something well for them, hey, we'd love that this worked out for you. And I was just thinking that you guys probably know a couple of folks in this space, or folks who are related to you, maybe in a different region, that could be benefiting from this as well. Anybody you can think of. We don't necessarily call it a bucket, but if you think about it, we say closest to revenue. Well, your customers are recurring revenue ideally. So they're closest to revenue. They're closer. Taking care of a customer is better than taking care of a prospect who's in the pipeline, is better than reaching out to a stranger. So making sure you're honoring, taking care of your customers absolutely matters most, because that is also where you get the recurring revenue, and it's also where you can certainly get referrals out to other folks. Depending on the services you offer initially, there's also where you get the most growth. I know a lot of companies where we see a ton of growth after the initial acquisition of a customer. There's just so many other things you can offer them. Like, hey, we really like this taste of your service that we got. We'd like a whole lot more of it, please. There's a lot of opportunity in there.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Anybody else? We got Evan. Go for it. I'm going to highlight you, bud.
What are some different things that you look for to kind of decide whether a prospect's not going to be like a good fit? And when do you try to decide that? Is it in the priority bucket?
It's a really interesting question. I love that question, Evan. We think about 4 elements to prospecting, to cold outreach. And the very first one and most important of all, you can tell we really like our priorities. Number one is target. So picking a target, a reason that this company, this contact should be the person that you talk to. So pick your target. You can spend all the time you want on messaging. Every minute of every day, you could think about a new clever message and, oh, this just happened, so I need to reference that. Oh, I just found this new personalization tool. It's going to make it really cool. So it's less about the message than it is about the target. You're going to get luckier a lot more often. You're going to have a lot better conversations talking to the right person who's experiencing pain and identifying triggers or reasons to reach out versus coming up with a really clever thing to say and saying it to the wrong person. The wrong person doesn't care about the right message, right? So we determine that before we build the list. We say, what are the parameters that are going to make this list a success? Now, of course, we can't determine every factor that's going to go into a conversation. So we'll typically look for, are they pushing us out? Like, hey, I have no interest in this. I'm not a right fit. Like, are they trying to disqualify themselves? Okay, cool. Let those people lie. They're not going to convert. If they're disqualified, that's fine. And they'll typically self-disqualify. Now, we also use in emails and call scripts, we'll use certain questions or highlight certain key terms that if they say this is totally irrelevant to me, that's what we wanted. We wanted people to self-select out if it's not relevant to them. So, key industry terms that are relevant to their industry, if they're like, hey, that's not familiar to me at all. Or like trying to determine if an owner of a business really cares about marketing. If you use certain marketing terms like PPC and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Cool. Then they don't spend a lot of money on PPC, right? Or SEO. Oh, I have no idea what that means. So self-selecting, allowing them to identify things in your message that kind of push them out of the way of those better qualified prospects. So people who ignore you or people who say, not right now, that's totally fine. I would still follow up with those folks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thanks.
Cool. Great question, though. Awesome.
All right. Who's next? Rex, thank you so much. This is awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a blast. I love talking. I wear the sales nerd hat because I'm a sales nerd. I love talking about this stuff. You guys connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a note. I'd love to see you succeed with your businesses. I love what Mike and the team are doing. It's amazing that we live in a day and age where this is even possible, right?
Right.
20 years ago, couldn't do this. Couldn't white label agency work. That wasn't a thing. It's amazing. Love what you guys are doing.
And here I'm going to put Rex's LinkedIn in the chat for everybody. If you want to go connect with them, there it is.
Please do. Love meeting people who are working hard trying to win business.
Well, I have one more thing. It's feedback to Evan. And sorry, Evan, I was taking notes and I didn't quite hear everything, but I wanted to say that based on your question, which was an excellent question, by the way, but just put me in, coach. Let me add him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, ideally, I'd like to disqualify them before you even talk to them.
I know. But if they're willing and able to do digital marketing, I want to add them.
Yeah. Because a conversation, even if it's a no, like a later conversation, like, hey, they put time on their calendar for a meeting, is better than a cold call, cold email, cold LinkedIn message response, right? It's more investment, showing that they were more interested than not interested. Business owners, people who are in leadership, like there's too much on their calendar already. So if they were able to prioritize that, I totally get it, Marty. Like you want them in your potential book of business for future follow-up because they're even a higher priority than folks who just said, maybe, or not right now, right? There's almost like a striation within your priority bucket, and those would be pretty high up on that list.
Cool.
Good stuff, guys.
Unless they're rude. I don't like rude people.
Yeah. Do business with people who want to do business with you.
Right. That's right. So then Rex, I think we'll end here. And thank you so much for pouring value into this community. I know that you don't even know them that well, right? You just were like, you and I connected on LinkedIn. You were like, yeah, I'll totally do that. So I appreciate it. So I know not everybody here is, your target market, but for those that watch this recording or the couple of folks that might be your target market, how do they know if they're the right kind of person to work with you? What do you do that would actually help them? Like just share what you do and who you work with.
Yeah, we work with founders and business owners who are trying to transition into building their own sales team, all the way up through later stage companies who have sales teams who are trying to make them more efficient. And we handle everything from coaching and consulting, whether that's consulting with the founder or coaching their sales rep, their first hire, helping them to make the right hire, all the way through building out their CRM instance, things like Go High Level, very familiar with these types of tools, helping to make them more effective. But it's typically when you're ready to invest in taking things to the next level. Hey, I want to put somebody else on the team, or I've already got a team and I want to make sure that we're maximizing their efforts. That's where we come in. We get the juice from the squeeze. It's a lot of fun because we do it in a very human and humane way. We make it easier for everybody to make money, and that's our favorite thing to do.
Excellent. And where would they contact you if they're interested in something like that?
LinkedIn or nofluffselling.com. You just head to my website. We love it. Very good.
Thank you for investing in everybody here today.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.